Hello everyone, my name is Dakoba and welcome back to Satisfactory. We are in power crisis mode today. At the end of our last episode, we ran out of electricity and our factory shut down. I was able to jumpstart things by kicking our biomass burners back online and setting up some emergency burners over at the coal power plant, but we need to resolve. So our first main goal is to build a new coal power plant today. That is going to be one of our big builds for the day, is to set up a power plant that'll properly see us through the rest of phase 3 and 4 and through the first part of phase 5 and 6 until we can unlock a new power source in fuel. This is a fairly large build, and one of the things I want to do, particularly for decorating it, is to play around with blueprints. That's our second main task today. We'll set up a blueprint designer, see what we can do with it, and talk a little bit about how blueprints might be useful in this series and in your own gameplay as well. Finally, we have another big build for the day, and that is a factory to produce all the space elevator parts that we have unlocked and that we need to finish up tiers 3 and 4. Now, there are, of course, an endless number of things that we could do in the Satisfactory world, but let's get started by heading on over to our power plant and see what we can do to stabilize our factory. Let's get into it. and that is a coal power plant all complete. This is providing 3,600 megawatts of power, which is going to be plenty. It's certainly more than enough to cover the 700 megawatts or so that we're using right now, and will also see us through our next several factories. Within the next couple episodes, we'll be breaking into fuel-based power, so we'll be able to expand our power supply even further, and this will definitely be enough to get us there. Now, this is a pretty standard coal power plant build as far as things go. We're mining the coal from the jungle just over there. We're tapping 3 veins and using the upgraded miners overclock to provide the coal for the 3 banks of 16 power plants apiece. So each of those miners is providing 240 coal per minute. That's being sent via tractor up to 3 truck stations, so 1 truck station for each section. And it's then being sent through some logistics layers into the generators themselves. Now, the water is being provided by water extractors underneath, but the head lift for those extractors is actually being provided by this water tower. The idea is that the head lift for an entire pipe network is set by the highest water generating structure within that pipe network. By sending water pumps up to a storage container at the top of a tower, any structure connected to that pipe network will have the head lift that is created by that water storage tank. So that water storage tank is actually providing the necessary head lift for every single pump providing the entire plant, because at the end of each of these turns we've connected all of the pipes so they're all part of the same water network. Now, each pump is providing sort of water locally. It's not sending water down the pipe into the next section unless that section runs low, and then we have bigger problems. But the head lift for this water tower is providing enough that we can provide water to our upper deck of generators there. This is something that I'm not sure if it'll work in 1.0. The devs haven't made any comments on it at all, but it's been in the game since fluids were introduced. And it gives a lot of flexibility to the height with which we can build factories. This same design would work even if this water tower didn't work. It would just be significantly less efficient because we would need a pump on each of these vertical pipes to pump the water up to the upper deck, and that would reduce the effectiveness of the plant by 30% or so. And so this is a technique I like to use in order to make things a little bit simpler, a little bit more efficient. Now, there's quite a bit of decorating we want to do here. I've been playing around with some designs. I like this double hex window and the doors there. I may put something like that on the other side, and I'm not sure if I'm going to wrap the structure or not, because I quite like the look of having the ability to look out through sort of this line of vertical lifts and pipes and see the factory. And we're going to have a central, one thing I do want to do is put in a central structure here that will sort of, be a crown on this piece. And so that is something we are going to do now. Our next task is to take a look at blueprints and design what that structure is going to look like. So let's head back to main base and take a look. Alright, now I've gone ahead and set up a blueprint designer here right next to our main base, and this is where we are going to get started. The blueprint designer is something I'm very excited to use throughout the rest of the series. I love what it lets us do. Now, blueprints have tons of uses. The big thing is that they allow you to repeat structures over and over again. So my favorite use case for them is probably creating modular segments of factories. You can see here the first blueprint I ever made. This produces reinforced iron plates. It takes iron ingots as an input and outputs reinforced iron plates. And so anytime I need reinforced iron plates, I can simply take this blueprint and paste it into the world, and all the work of building this section of the factory is done for me. And it's possible to build out a library of blueprints that essentially lets you play virtually the entire game that way, with the exception of a handful of buildings which don't fit within the blueprint designer, things like coal power plants, for example. The other thing I like to use blueprints for is in designing highly repetitive but very intricate structures. Things like decorative road supports, which are a little bit of a pain to build by hand every single time, but by having a blueprint for it, we can copy and paste them over and over again and use them throughout the world. And that's more what we're going to be focusing on today. Today we're going to be building an infinity wall, which is going to use signs and windows to create a really cool effect that'll let us bedazzle our coal power plant. We're going to start off by placing a bunch of road barriers. We're going to find the center line and then tilt it out 1 tick and then just place these out until we get pretty close to the wall. I think we're going to go 1 meter in from the wall should do. And then go ahead and repeat that on the other side. And then now the goal is to create a line of signs and windows. So I think the farthest out wall wants to have a sign hooked onto the end of it, but I don't think we can actually hook the sign onto the road barrier. I think we need to place down a wall here first. So, all right, do that on the other side as well. And then on those walls, we can put our small billboard signs. That one turned upside down. So we want to make sure we get these right side up. There are a couple of ticks on top. Let's see, after we place this. Yeah, right in the corner. You can see a tick there. And so we'll do that on the other side. Make sure those are good on top. And then place those signs. Now on the rest of these walls, we're going to want to put... I want to create a back wall of signs as well. I think we're going to go ahead and put down our window. So we're going to attach a full frame window to each of these road barriers as well. Good. We'll do that on the other side. Now we want to create a wall of signs behind this as well. I think, yeah, we can get rid of these walls and road barriers. They're just going to get in the way at this point. So let's go ahead and clear these out. All right, now we need to place our small billboard signs at the back of these lines here. So by having the signs overlap just a little bit, it eliminates that gap. It does give us a little bit on the corner, but that may actually be okay. Now that I think about how that'll look, I think that may be okay. So we'll try that. We'll see how that looks. And you can start to see in the glass a little bit of the blur effect. I think it'll look a lot better once we get the signs properly lit up. Let's pick a nice blue color to match our factory. Clear out the image on the sign, set it to maximum brightness and glossy. And then we need to set the background to the lines. And we can just copy and paste this onto all of the remaining signs. Yeah, you can start to see a little bit of the infinity effect there. I think it's going to be more pronounced once we turn on Lumen and once we have everything fully set up the way. Let's go ahead and put a text sign in front of this, though. So what we're going to do is we're going to build one with a ground mount, and then snap one above it, and then snap one, remove the bottom one, and re-snap one to the bottom of that, so we get a clear sign. Change that to just have a piece of text on it, a single big letter. So, the right color. And that is looking good. I like that. This is going to look really nice once we tile it up. Let's go ahead. I've gone ahead and created this on all four sides here. There was a lot of crafting of crystal oscillators to make this all work, but I am glad that I did. It looks good, and I do like how having the signs stick out on the corners creates this effect on the sides. I did remove the signs and walls from the topmost layer, so it creates a little bit of a texture variation as you near the top. But overall, I'm very, very happy with this. I think it looks really good. I've also done a little bit more decorating around the factory, which you may have been able to tell. I put up the door on the right-hand side there, and I still haven't decided if I want to put a roof on these buildings or anything like that. So that may be something we continue to play with over time. But overall, I think this is a good place to leave this build for today and move on to our next task. So let's head on home and see what we have next. Alright, our final task for today, at least for our main builds, is the Space Elevator Part 2 components, the smart plating, the versatile frameworks, and the automated wiring. Now, I have decided that I want to do this factory right next to my space elevator, and you can see that I have already started to plan it out. So let's pop over and take a look at the design for this next factory. All right, now, if we look in the corner of the screen, we can see the objectives of this factory. We need to produce 500 smart plating, 500 versatile framework, and 500 automated wiring. And I've decided that I'm going to build a factory that will produce these quantities in 100 minutes. So 5 per minute for the smart plating and versatile framework, and 1 per minute for the automated wiring. Now we're going to be doing this build in 3 sections, which I've color coded here. All right, first up, we're going to be producing 1 automated wiring. This is going to require 1 stator as well as 20 cable. Now the stator is going to be made from steel pipes and wire, and the cable was also made from wire. So that makes this a nice easy factory. We're going to be using the iron wire alternate here so we can keep our requirements for the input for this portion of the factory to just iron and steel ingots. Next up, we'll be producing 5 versatile frameworks. That's the amount provided by one assembler at 100%, but it's going to require 30 steel beams. That's going to take 2 constructors. It's also going to require 2.5 modular frames per second. We're going to be doing this in a single assembler at 125% clock speed. I'm choosing to overclock here because the location I've chosen for this factory next to my space elevator isn't that big. We have just a very small amount of space to work with here. But no, I do want to keep a fairly compact factory here, so we're going to overclock some of our machines, and so we'll be using a single assembler here to produce the modular frames. Those modular frames are going to require some iron rods as well as some reinforced iron plates, and the reinforced iron plates will require screws as well as iron plates as well. Our final section of the factory is going to be producing smart plating, which we've done in the past, requires reinforced iron plates and rotors, and that is a pure iron recipe, so we'll be sending in a bunch of iron ingots to be crafted into iron rods, screws, and iron plates in constructors, compiled into the intermediate components in assemblers, and then sent into an assembler to produce the smart plating. Overall, this factory only uses iron ingots and steel ingots, and we're going to need a total of 124 steel ingots and 202 iron ingots. Now we're going to break this build up into 2 parts. The first part is going to be a foundry. We'll mine a bunch of iron, send it into a bunch of smelters to produce iron ingots. Most of those will be sent onto this factory, but some will be sent into a set of foundries, where we'll use the solid steel alternate recipe to combine them with coal and produce the steel ingots we need for this factory. Let's get into it. Alright, and that is our Foundry all set up and squared away. Now, one of the reasons I wanted to do this in two parts is to have a little bit more precise control over how much material we're moving. We had some pretty precise numbers for how many iron and steel ingots we need at the second part of this factory, and by working in this way, we can fine-tune these machines to create the exact perfect number of ingots so that we're not spending time sending more items than we need across to the next portion of the factory. Now here we have 7 smelters producing the iron ingots to be sent over to our production facility, and 3 more producing the iron ingots for our foundries. Those are being fed into the 2 foundries with the coal to produce the steel ingots. The coal is being provided by the miner up on the hill there in the distance, which is then being sent down into that truck station where it's picked up by a tractor, sent down into the first truck station here to be unloaded, sent into the foundries to be produced into steel, and then loaded into the second truck station. As the vehicle passes through, it will pick up the ingots on its way out and then head on over to our production facility. Let's get into the rest of the build. Alright, and that is a factory all complete. You can see that the factory is churning away, producing plenty of space elevator parts. They're slowly trickling in. We are a little bit ahead on the automated wiring. That's just due to the nature of how the factory uses a manifold system to pre-fill, and so the leftmost section is going to fill first and be, the first section that's fully efficient. But eventually everything will catch back up to it. And so we are making good progress on all of our components, and we should be able to send this space elevator off within the next hour, and I'm very excited to unlock the next tiers. Now, while I wait for my space elevator to fill up, I did want to take a minute to answer a couple of questions that I get over and over in the comments. So the first and most common is, do I use creative mode? And the answer to that is mostly no, and allow me to explain. If I go into my save games, you'll see that my most recent save does not have advanced game settings enabled, so I am not using creative mode. If I want to produce something, then I have to have the materials in my inventory to produce it. I do not have free build mode enabled. Now, over the course of filming an episode, I do make dozens of save games, and occasionally if I realize I have to go back and correct a mistake or something like that, or for the purpose of filming, I will reload a previous save with creative mode enabled and do the filming just to speed things along and create the movie magic that makes everything work. However, everything you see in the world that is sort of from sort of the cutting edge and going forward was built by hand using the standard rules of the game. Next is a question of which mods do I use, and I use two mods, that is Ficsitcam and Sky UI. Ficsitcam is by Panicotta00, and it is how I create my time lapses. So I can use this to sort of create the cinematic film footage that I use whenever I want to do an aerial or a complex shot for my factory. And then Sky UI is a UI that lets me change what time of day it is. And this is so if I want to do something at a certain time of day with a certain amount of lighting, or if I'm trying to create like a continuous shot, but I need to take, a 15-minute break between filming, that I can sort of correct for the natural passage of time. Next up is what are my plans for 1.0, and that really depends on when it comes out. I would very much like to finish this series and get through and launch the sort of Phase 4 space elevator, and then start new in 1.0 with all the new things so I can experience the story and do all of that. If it turns out that we don't have that much time and that it's only a few weeks away, for example, then that obviously won't work because this game takes hundreds of hours to complete and we are not there yet. But if we have until July, for example, then that is my plan, is to start a new series in 1.0, probably starting on the northern half of the map in either the Northern Forest or the Rocky Desert, and experience the sort of full gameplay of Satisfactory 1.0 when it releases. Alright, and all of our space elevator components are complete and loaded into the space elevator, so let's head on over to the terminal and send this package away. And as that crate flies into the stratosphere, I think we will start winding up this episode. I'd like to thank you guys for taking a few minutes out of your day to spend some time with me here. I've had a blast making this episode. I hope that you have enjoyed it as well. Leave a like if you haven't, subscribe if you would like to see more. My name is Dakoba, and I hope you have an efficient day. I will see you soon.